Good evening, everyone. My name is Jerry Cooper. I am the project manager for special assessment districts for the City of Oxnard. Thank you so much for being a part of this meeting tonight and being a part of the ReNew Oxnard program to talk about your special district, Standard Pacific. And tonight with us, we have Danielle Wood and Pablo Perez from NVS, or CivicMic, as you may know them from the emails that you receive. We also have Steve Howlett. He is the Assistant Public Works Director in charge of special districts. We look forward to hearing your feedback, and I'm going to hand it over to Pablo and Danielle.
Thank you, Jerry. I am Danielle Wood, and I see a lot of familiar names here. A lot of people that I've spoken to in the past, and we just want to thank you for being here tonight. We, really appreciate having dedicated members of the community going through this process with us. We would like to see more people on this meeting than we have. High participation is really key to success here, and we will talk about that throughout tonight's workshop. But for those of you that have already attended a meeting with us, you've heard some of this, so I will go quickly. CivicMic was hired by the city to assist with public engagement efforts. Our main focus is to work with communities and government to help you to work together and realize sustainable visions for your community's future. Many of you are signed up on CivicMic.com, and you already knew about this meeting before the postcard arrived at your house. For those of you that are not, you can see there on the screen, if you visit civicmic.com/Oxnard, you can scroll down to the bottom and subscribe to receive updates. So every time we post information to the site, you'll get an update. And like I said, you will be the first one to know of anything that's going on, such as this meeting. So you just put your email address in there, name, and your site address, and select the community that you're in. Once you've done that, if you haven't been to the site already, there's a lot of information here. We've populated a ton of information to explain about the formation of your district, about the budgets, what's happened over the years, your service levels. We're looking here at the org chart, but there's just a ton of information here that you could spend hours reviewing, and we feel like education is the key to success here. So we have put everything out here that we think you'd need to know or you'd ever want to know about your districts to help you make informed decisions on how you want to move forward. So please, if you aren't signed up there, visit our website, go to the data center, look at all the information, make sure to sign up for updates. The city is really focused on representing your voice, so we want you to understand this information so you can make a good decision on how you want the city to move forward for your community. So community participation is very important, and we need a lot of the members of your community to participate in order to have the city feel comfortable in making a decision. So that's number one focus for our group, and anyone that wants to join in these efforts would be to help us to get participation within your community. For a meeting like this tonight, we will have all of you on mute so you can hear the presentation. If you notice that you're going off of mute and we keep putting you back on, that's because we want everyone to be able to hear what is being covered. Feel free to chat a question in the chat box, but limit that just to questions, not conversations going back and forth. If you have to get off the call early, we'll try and keep this meeting around an hour. If you have to get off the call early, we will make sure to post the recorded meeting to the website, so you can go there and watch the entire meeting and read comments and questions there. If you have any questions that come up after this, please feel free to call us or email us. Our information is all on the website as well. The phone number is 1-800-676-7516. We are hoping to hear from as many of you as possible tonight, and we really want to gather feedback from everyone, from different demographics, diverse values. So while we know that some of you have different opinions, we will not allow for any personal attacks or slander. If anyone's using foul language or making personal attacks, we'll remove you from the meeting and place you into a private room while you can regain your composure. When we bring you back, if those attacks continue, then we'll remove you from the meeting and you will not be able to return. We don't think that that will happen, but we just want to be clear as to what our expectations are, and that we really do appreciate hearing different perspectives from everyone. We also know that there's a lot of history with many of you that are on this call, history with the city and these districts, and we appreciate that history, but the meeting tonight and going forward for your community is really about how we can move forward from this point. So we appreciate that history, like I said, but please limit any conversations about what's happened in the past and really focus on questions you may have on how we can move forward and work together to build your community. So with that being said, I will let Pablo take over for the workshop portion of this meeting. Pablo?
Very good. All right, let me get this here on the screen. Hope everybody can hear me okay. I'll try to go a little slow. I know my accent can be hard to understand sometimes, and I tend to go a little fast at times. And Danielle, I'll let you handle the hosting duties, please. I think somebody else is coming in. I want to thank you all for taking the time to participate in this meeting and effort. I think that we can safely agree on one thing, and that is that the landscaping around your community needs work. So it's in desperate need of maintenance and repair. We believe that there is an opportunity here to turn areas in Oxnard around. We are meeting with you and other communities. We think we can find a solution and a way to fix that, improve it. And we believe that by doing so, we can actually improve lives of residents in the city. But most importantly, we can all be part of a success story that can be replicated throughout the city. So how do we do this? Well, first, we are engaging you and the citizens of every community to inform you about the issues and what the possible solutions may be. As you can see, there's not a lot of people here tonight in this meeting. We sent out hundreds of cards, and we still have very low attendance. So our main goal here for tonight will be to try to recruit your neighbors and get them into a meeting so that we can all share on the same information. We plan to be your advocate with the city, work with the city, work with you on trying to figure out the best solution and create viable solutions. So what do these solutions may look like? We get that a lot, right? Well, it really depends on the neighborhood. At the intro meeting, we talked about opportunities for nonprofit organizations, HOAs, citizens that are doing work currently already, and others that may want to be involved, as well as having the work done by the city. There's really not a one solution for everybody. It really depends on each community and what their level of involvement is going to be. Ultimately, the best solution will be one that is represented on the city side by the Special Districts Division. And I say that because they're a small group of people, a small division that is dedicated to implement the solutions that come out of this effort, and somebody that you can hold accountable, right? Rather than just a large organization with over 1,000 employees. And then also a group of residents that will be on board, a citizens committee to be created and remain on board for the duration of the project to help streamline communications and ensure that long-lasting partnership with the city, right? I think it's important that this group of citizens stays on board from year to year and continue to work with the city to make sure that whatever is it that you're paying for, you're getting. This will not be a cookie cutter solution. It will not be a one size fits all. And we're going to, whenever possible, I don't know if you noticed, we kind of grouped you with what used to be called Strawberry Fields, or it is called Strawberry Fields, but used to have a landscaping maintenance district before. And we're doing that in an effort to capture the exterior improvements, the landscaping on the medians, the perimeter that looks really, really bad. And hopefully we can bring that in. And we believe that by having more parcels all fronting that area in the solution, we can achieve economies of scale, right? So the rates should be better than without extending the area, right? Ultimately, we're not expecting any fast outcomes. There will be no decisions made here tonight. So whatever you see on the screen, like even the line showing the proposed area, that is not final. You and the citizen committee together are going to decide what that is going to look like at the end. It's not going to be the city. It's not going to be us. It is you. Really, you're going to go out and you're going to meet other neighbors and figure out what is it that you want to have done and what area should be paying for it, essentially, right? So the most important thing is to create the citizens committee. And for that, we need volunteers. So out of tonight, if you're on the phone, Danielle's email is dwood@civicmic.com. That is civic, mic as a microphone.com. Okay. dwood@civicmic.com. Please email her and volunteer to be in the committee. That's the very most important thing that you can do tonight to help this effort. We will need your assistance in sharing the information from tonight's meeting. This meeting has been recorded. The slides on the meeting will be online at our website in a few days, and you can share that through social media or email or with your neighbors so that they can all see and learn about this project, right? We, Danielle, the city, and I will work together to support the efforts of this committee with online material, printed materials, any information, additional meetings, whatever is needed for the Citizens Committee to be able to share the information and achieve consensus. Because ultimately, that is the goal here, right? We will vet the solutions, work with the city on figuring out what the costs are, what the budgets is going to be, what the rates may look like, and what combination of involvement there's going to be between the city and the Citizens Committee and the citizens themselves. We expect this is going to take multiple iterations, right? We're going to work on that budget, meet some more, and it's going to take quite a few months to get to a point where we can all agree on something. That is the most important thing, because if you decide to pursue the formation of a Melrose district, right, to replace what you have right now, for in the case of Standard Pacific, right, Strawberry Fields is no longer there as an LMD. But if you do that, you're going to need 2/3 approval from registered voters. 2/3 is a very, very high threshold. So this is very important that you understand that, because I hear sometimes, well, the city's going to raise my taxes. Please be at ease. After Prop 13, 218, and 26, it is extremely difficult for any city in California to raise your property taxes. Everything goes to a vote. And in this case, a mellow is going to require 2/3. So yes, your neighbors can raise your property taxes, but the city is not going to be able to do that on their own. So this Citizens Committee, their main goal is to determine if that's something you want to pursue and then achieve consensus on a solution. So with that said, I'll jump into the slides. Again, these will be available to you in a few days, along with a video of this meeting. And I'll do my best to describe these slides for you on the phone. But again, if you miss something, please go online and read the post. If you have subscribed to receive updates, you will receive an email when this is posted. So this is the area that we're describing. As you can see here, south of Gonzales, east of Patterson. It's what we refer to as LMD 12. This is Standard Pacific. This area down here below, between Standard Pacific and Doris Avenue, all the way down to Ventura, is what it used to be the LMD for Strawberry Fields, right? That landscaping and maintenance district is no longer in existence, right? So that's the area that we're beginning with, and this is just a starting point for conversation. Whatever the final outcome of this, we don't know what it will be. The idea for this was that we will want to capture improvements along Gonzales on the northern part, all the way down on Patterson on this west side, and along Doris Avenue all the way down to Ventura. As we understand it, the outside or the exterior improvement outside of your community along Patterson and Doris looks pretty bad. So we were hoping to capture that to provide you with an area that as you approach your home, yes, maybe the other parts of the city are not looking so good, but as you turn the corner, you will look at and say, okay, the median looks great, the parkways look really good, right? That's the idea. Again, that's all subject to discussion. It really is going to be you and the committee who's going to figure that out, the Citizens Committee. I'm going to talk a little bit about your existing district. Again, Strawberry Fields is no longer valid in existence, but a lot of the terms will apply just the same way. What is important to understand is that Strawberry Fields and Standard Pacific, the development of these communities was completely contingent on the formation of a maintenance assessment district. That was a requirement. And what that meant, and what that has meant all along, is that the improvements your landscaping inside and outside is your responsibility for good or bad. That's how this was created. The developer set that up with the city. So from the beginning, the general fund was not supposed to be paying for the maintenance of the median trees or the interior. It always has been Standard Pacific and Strawberry Fields' responsibility. So that's great. We have the maintenance district. You did form it, meaning the developer, because you bought the home way after that. The developer was way gone. And so we now are stuck with this document that was created in 1989 that has no inflator and no way to increase that without a vote. We just, like I said earlier, the city cannot just increase these rates. So people in Standard Pacific are currently paying $88 a year to maintain trees, shrubs, and ground cover. If it's not in this list, the city cannot use your assessment district money to do it. The way an assessment district works is very, very strict, right? The money comes from the county through your property taxes into a dedicated fund. It cannot be used for any other purpose, and it can only be used for the authorized items here, trees, shrubs, and ground cover. We can add items to that list, but in your case, you really don't have much money to do so. And in fact, this year, earlier on, we did work with David Littell and a group of other residents to add a couple of entryways. Can't remember the two streets names but I have it in a map somewhere. And we can do that, but what it's going to do eventually is it's going to use more of your funds. And so because we don't have an inflator, the moment we have another water rate increase, or if you want to beautify anything or make it even better, you're going to go through that cash. Your estimated fund balance for the end of the year is going to be $14,000. Your annual costs right now are running around $15,000 for what you're getting currently. But from what I understand, it doesn't look very good. So I think you want more than that. And again, this does not include anything to do with the exterior, right? Nothing on the medians, nothing on Gonzalez or Patterson. This is all interior, because the Standard Pacific Assessment District is only paying for what's inside of your community. Let me see if I can get a map, which I had earlier here, which I'll describe better for you. So this year we added Nebula and Barrel Avenue. So the district is now paying for this little bit here on Talus, Nebula, and these little, circles here. Imagine cul-de-sacs. Not sure how much it's there. And you can see just a few trees. That's really all that is being paid with your assessment money. Nothing on Patterson, nothing on Gonzalez. Okay. So that's what this is all about. $7 a month, 255 parcels. Okay. So then another thing I hear a lot is like, okay, well, I paid all these property taxes, right? I paid a lot. And you do pay a lot of property taxes, indeed. But unfortunately, the city, and this is, again, not anything they can change. It's just the way it works, not just for Oxnard, but for pretty much every city in California. In fact, some of the recent cities that were incorporated in the last few years, like Wildomar, Menifee, and others, they get nothing. They don't get any money from property taxes, from the 1% ad valorem tax, right? The city of Oxnard gets about 17 cents on the dollar. Everything else, for every dollar that you pay, anything after 17 cents goes to the school districts, the community college, the county, and other districts. So with that small portion, I'm going to go ahead and break that down even further, because what you have on the screen right now is some sample properties from Standard Pacific. And the way this works is your 1% ad valorem tax, which is your largest dollar amount on your property tax bill, is a portion using what we call tax rate areas. These are, again, not determined by the city. This is all predetermined. So the rate for those two tax areas you have is actually about 18 cents on the dollar. It's a little better than the city as a whole. So what I did is I looked at some properties in Standard Pacific. These assessed values that I'm showing, as low as 344, as high as 752,000, and that's 344,000 for those on the phone. Are county assessed values. They're not market values, right? It's whatever the county is showing. So the reason you have some parcels at 344,000 is because these are people that have been living in Standard Pacific for a long, long time. The home has not sold. So let's use the high end. Let's pick the highest one here at $752,000. That property pays $7,500 in the 1% property tax, right? And they also pay the 80 something dollars of the assessment. And they also pay some measures that are on your property tax bill. These measures normally, for the most part, 90% of the time or higher, are for dedicated uses, right? They're restricted. They cannot be used for whatever the city wants to use them for, right? So that's why I'm just concentrating on this 1%, which is the larger amount. And that's a lot of money, $7,000, right? The city gets $1,300 of that, of the $7,500. But immediately, and not unlike any city, this is very normal, 65% of the city's budget is for public safety. That means the police and fire are going to take $620, $201, so it's about $821 of the $1,300. All that is left for all remaining services in this particular case to be provided by the city is $500 a year. Okay, that's about $46 a month. So the city now needs to do the streets, parks, trees, pretty much everything you actually see on a daily basis other than police and fire, with the $556 from this one home worth $752,000, paying $7,500 in the 1% tax. So I'm gonna go further with that. These are some examples of what a monthly rates of things are. Notice in the previous slide, that comes out to $46 a month. Yet we pay water higher than that, internet is higher than that, and so on. So on a monthly basis, it is actually less than pretty much every utility bill that you have. So here's the little breakdown of the general fund. City of Oxnard has a $140 million fund, general fund budget. Of that, $63 million goes to the police, 20 to fire, right? So all that's left is a little bit under 60. And of that, immediately we have to shave 23 million to go to what I call the admin groups, right? The city attorney's office, manager's office, billing, HR, debt service, and so on. So, you know, that's what it takes. You take that off. Then another 21 million goes to libraries, community services, community development, cultural things, which I believe in your case, you have some major cuts recently in your cultural centers and also sort of that effort. Because a few years ago, the city did have some budget cuts on that. But that's about 21 million. So all that is left of the general fund budget from 140 is about $13 million going to public works for what we're talking about tonight, right? So your concerns about the trees, the sidewalks, mailboxes maybe, you know, landscaping, the walls on the outside, everything that you actually see inside and outside of your community is funded from here, from public works. And you know, that's really not a lot of money, because when you think about the whole city having all the parks and streets and the fleet to maintain, it really is not a lot of money. So I'm going to break that down a little further. In our website, if you go to the main page, you'll find the 5-year capital improvement program. Yeah, the link is here. The link will be available to you in the post when this is shared with you. And so you'll have a chance to kind of look at that. I really strongly advise you to review that document. It is called the 5-year capital improvement program, presented April 20th, 2020 by the city manager. So let me give you some examples of costs that the city has to incur. There are 453 miles of streets in the city currently. They're not in really good shape. The PCI index, it's actually, I want to say 59, somewhere in there. Once you get below 55, you start having major problems where maintenance is not really going to work. You start having water go on there and real damage, and it's going to cost you a lot more. So in order to maintain the current situation or condition of your streets through the whole city, 453 miles of that will cost you about $12 million a year. To improve it, it's about $15.5 million, right? Certainly a lot of money that the city doesn't have. I'll give you some examples of why that's so costly, right? If you were doing maintenance, this is what we call the thin maintenance overlay of 1 inch. You're not really replacing anything. You're just putting a 1 inch pancake on top, right? Just covering that with 1 inch of asphalt. Well, a few years ago, the city did La Colonia, a neighborhood there at the city, and it cost about $1.3 million to do that. To do Victoria Avenue from the south end to the north end for just the 1 inch, not actually replacing anything, that was $1.4 million. So it costs a lot of money to do these projects. And I know your streets are in desperate need of repairs and improvements. The city has 53 parks for 370 acres to maintain. That's a lot of acreage for Public Works to handle with their budget, with what's left. They have about 48 city sports courts. They need about $4 million to restore them. They're in pretty bad shape. When we talk about the medians of the parkways, we talk about that a lot because that's very visible. It's right outside your community on Gonzalez and so on. The city has 129 acres of that to maintain. It's a lot of acreage. There are 56,000 trees in the city worth 163 million. 1,100 of them are dead or dying. They need to be removed. The city tree trimming program is currently on a 60-year plan. That's not really a plan. That's actually more like an emergency room. You're just running from tree to tree that is falling on the middle of the road just because it's public safety issue. You have to take care of it. That is not going to work. I mean, long term, you have a nice asset of trees that were planted in the 80s, right? And the 90s, because this was one of the typical communities that we have throughout all of California with a lot of trees and greenery, but all that is dying. And the city doesn't have the money to maintain that. So that's really a big issue. The whole Parks Department, I want to say it's got about $1 million budget to maintain all that, along with 370 acres of land and 129 acres of landscaping. It's just not sustainable. So that's why you see the city from the general fund not being able to do much with those trees and the landscaping on the exterior of your communities. Recently, I heard, yes, Measure E, your sales tax increase was passed, and that's fantastic. I'll be honest with you, when I heard about this going to the ballot, I really didn't think it was going to pass. So I'm actually extremely happy that Measure E passed because I feel that you need quite a bit of funding. You have a lot of needs in the city. Yes, you could conceivably wait for Measure E funding to restore your landscaping and all of that. That's an option here. That is an option that you and the citizen committee, right? When you all get together, you're going to have to decide, do we want to do anything about this or do we just want to wait for Measure E? And if Measure E funds come down to this item listed on a slide from the presentation by the city manager, restoring landscaping services, if money gets here, yes, you'll be in great shape, right? I do not know when that's going to happen. I know the city recently had a meeting about the priorities of Measure E, and I don't have any numbers to share with you at this point. I don't think that the numbers are ready, but that is something to consider. And it's really not for us to decide, it's really for you. Can you wait or do you want to do something now? Here's an option. I have mentioned this at other meetings. You can do something now, right? And say you decided, oh, we want to take care of this problem now. We want to create a district. We want to capture all those improvements and pay for it ourselves. Well, we can put a sunset on that. We can say that district will last for 5, 7 years, whatever you decide. I wouldn't do anything less than 5. I'll probably go for 7. And then we will have a process for that district to be renewed through a ballot, through another vote, right? So then you have a moment in time where you can say, okay, we were able to get funding for this other stuff. We don't need the district, or we need it at a different amount. So there are options there. You don't need to be stuck with anything for life. There's no, we're very flexible. We're trying to kind of find a solution to this problem, not create a larger problem, right? Earlier, I mentioned that whatever comes out of this effort is going to be handled by the Special Districts Division. I have the org chart on the screen here. You can see it. It's a very small group of people, but this is the only thing they do, right? And so I know Jerry works really, really hard. There are some vacancies right now here, which is making Jerry work extra hard, right? So please be nice to Jerry. Jerry's really nice and she works really hard, but she is understaffed at the moment. So they're working really hard at that. But, you know, God, hiring these days it's a very interesting what's going on across the state with people moving around, going all sorts of places, including regardless of COVID anyway. So hopefully they'll get staff soon. But the good news is that whatever comes out of this effort, you'll have a group of people that you can call, you can email, and you should be able to get some answers because that is the only thing they do, your districts, right? So I would not recommend any solution that doesn't have some component like this, right? I have on the screen now the geographical area that we are recommending. This is a starting point again. It goes again from Gonzalez, Standard Pacific side on Patterson, down to Doris, to the right on Strawberry Fields, all the way down to Ventura. This is a starting point. There's nothing here that is final. If you get together and you come back and say, Pablo and Danielle and Jerry, nobody wants to join in this effort. Only the people in Strawberry Fields wants to do it. Okay, we'll work with them. Or you come back as Standard Pacific is the only people. Okay, we'll work with that. Your biggest challenge here is going to be getting people to get involved and support some sort of a solution that may involve additional funding, right? Because it's going to have to come from somewhere, right? And that's going to probably come in the way of an HOA due, or citizen involvement, you doing work, or the city doing the work. Somehow it's going to have to get paid, right? So I'll have another. This is a second map showing the same thing. It may be easier for you to read, but it's basically this area here in the shape of an L. And then this is the last map showing the satellite view. Okay, so you guys a lot of you did respond to a survey that we sent out. It was an online survey. Before going to the results of that, something that was apparent in every survey, by the way, for every community, was that you have a major homelessness problem in the city. And with that, a public safety issue. So I'll let Danielle talk a little bit about how this effort that we are doing, ReNew Oxnard, really doesn't work best for that. It's not a really good use of your money because you don't really get the best bang for your buck. So I'll let Danielle handle that for a second.
Thank you, Pablo. Well, I think that when we look at the survey results, it makes a lot of sense that public safety is number one, right? That is for my community as well. And when we are talking about this program, the Citizens Committee can help with public safety in different ways, but you won't receive the same bang for your buck, I guess, for your efforts and for your contribution of money. So if one of the solutions is to provide additional financing to meet some of these priorities here with public safety, we could say, that's really important, but if we put money towards it, we're not going to get an additional officer in your community that's dedicated just to your community. So that kind of gets spread throughout the city. And that's the same thing with homelessness. You can see here we have the City of Oxnard's website that has a lot of really good resources for homeless concerns and questions, and the police department has the same thing, has a lot of good programs that have been put together for neighborhoods to help with public safety. And we'll talk about that within the Citizens Committee. It's just not going to be a focus of how we will use financing to accomplish some of those priorities. So there's a number of different programs you can see on the police department's website, and there's a whole list of numbers here that you can call on the City of Oxnard's page if you do see homeless members of the community that you need to, call and help them to get some help. And, they've been displaced and you need to get them some help out to your community. There's a lot of information there. So we will talk about that in the Citizens Committee and some of the volunteering efforts, but that just won't be part of a financial solution that we will talk about tonight.
All right, thank you, Danielle. So from the survey, the way the scoring works is the lower the number, the more of a high priority it was for you. Again, this is based on the people who took the survey, right? So it may not represent what you all feel as a community because very few people took the survey, right? So this is why it's important that you form the citizen committee so that we can really hear from all of you something that is representative of Strawberry Fields and Standard Pacific. But clearly from this group, it kind of makes sense, the small group, the maintenance of the landscaping inside the community was a top priority along with the sidewalks. The maintenance of the landscaping outside and the streets outside was a priority, as well as the street lighting and the maintenance of nearby parks, right? So to me, I have driven through your area, so this all makes sense. I will think that the majority of your residents there will agree with that. I have underlined the items that through this effort we can help you with. So all those items we can help if you were to design a program that had an HOA, nonprofit and CFD component or any mixture of that, definitely that could be incorporated into a program of some sort, along with the illegal trash dumping on Patterson and Teal Club, tree trimming, absolutely, tree droppings, these berry bowls, which are very famous in Oxnard. I've heard about these trees for the last 7 years. Amazingly enough, I kind of hate them myself because I used to have a really nice car parked under those trees. Not anymore, but then we found out we wanted to do something about it, that actually a lot of people love those trees. And so we found ourselves in a community meeting where half wanted the trees and half didn't. So apparently, well, I don't know how to explain that, but I heard all about these berry bowl trees. So that will be something that needs to be worked out by you, because I got in the middle of that and I couldn't really get a straight answer or a final answer on that. Your mailboxes, absolutely. Some of the assessment districts do pay for mailboxes, not a lot of them repairs. This one doesn't have it included, but it is something that could be picked up and incorporated, right? In this survey, in this particular community, we asked the question, do you see an HOA as a possible solution or a way for an HOA to play a role of some sort? And so what we're hearing back is either you love them or you hate them. So it sounds from the few people who answered the survey here, there is no support for an HOA to take over these improvements or do anything. But in other communities, they're very willing to help and get involved, right? A little bit over half of you, 52% of those that responded, will be interested in volunteering to do some work. And that's something that could be structured into the program. Some people may not want to do that. Some people may want to. It doesn't need to be. Again, this is going to come down to what your committee and you as a group of citizens are going to be able to do together, right? Earlier I mentioned, or I may have mentioned maintenance levels. I know that Danielle did. It's important that you know what those are. The city has defined service levels for the maintenance of this landscaping. That's a full schedule is actually found in our website at the data center. The link is at the bottom of the slide. It will be available to you, so you can see, or you can just visit our website and find it. It's really easy. But right now you're a level B. That's where you are. I hear from Jerry that you're sort of moving down to level C. I don't know when, but that's where you are. You're sort of on the way down to a level C. Level B means that you're getting your landscaping mowed and edge every 2 weeks. Level C will mean every 3rd week, right? We have communities throughout the city, and this applies only to Standard Pacific, by the way. So this is Standard Pacific only in the interior of Standard Pacific. This is not Strawberry Fields. This is not the medians. This is not the Parkways, nothing on the outside, okay? But we have communities that are a level F, even in the inside. A level F will be quarterly, which is really not any real maintenance. So it's important that you keep this in mind, because if we are striving to improve the community, we want to shoot for a level A. And some people, well, weekly is not needed. Well, you want to start with level A, because water increases do not follow any kind of inflator. You have water increases on any given year for 13%, 26%, and we have no control over that. And so let's say whatever budget you set up or whatever rate you set up for level B, if you did it that way, it will not last very long. After a couple of years, you'll get some rates. Remember, anything the city does needs to be on a schedule, and you need to get an inflator with that, but it's a fixed inflator. It's not, the city cannot just increase your rates from year to year, 13%, 26%. That is just not allowed. So anything, if the city's involved, is going to need to be very stable, not large increases from year to year kind of revenue, which so that's why I recommend we start with level A, so that you have a little bit of time before we have to worry about the service level dropping again for like a funding.
Hello, let me interrupt for 1 minute. I know, Doug, you may have entered the meeting late here, and we're getting some questions on how to mute the comments. We understand there's a lot of history with many of you in the city, and we have asked that the comments section be left for questions that we'd like to get answered from this presentation. So right now, if you could hold your comments in that section and leave that to questions that you'd like to have addressed. Many of the people here do want to participate in moving forward with the city on working on a solution. And I understand many of you may not want to do anything at this point from reading comments that, you know, this may not interest you, but we want to respect everyone's opinion and let everyone have the opportunity to learn about the options that they have before making a decision. So thank you.
All right. So what are possible desired outcomes from this effort? What are we trying to get at, right? First of all, we would like, again, the Special Districts Division to be the division in charge of the effort and the work to be done, because I really believe you could get more transparency and more accountability from that. And to that effect, I have a next slide where I'll talk about transparency. We definitely need to take over the interior and the exterior improvements and bring them up to service level A. They're really, even in service level B that I have seen at the city, yes, the maintenance may be level B, but the improvements that were there, meaning the plants, half of them are no longer there. Things have changed quite a bit since I've been working with the city. So we want to restore landscaping, we want to restore the trees. We want to bring everything up to top notch, right? That will be ideal. We want to meet with you and the committee and try to determine if there's any new improvements, new things that are currently not covered, not included, that you want to include. Run some numbers on that and see what it looks like, right? We don't know until we take a look at it. And then most importantly, we need a working committee, a citizen group that is going to stay involved way after we're gone, right? So that you can continue to work with the city on a yearly basis to review the budget, help the city with making decisions, and then make sure that everything's up to par the way that we established it. From a transparency standpoint, I know this is a sticking point. Indeed, one of the things we want to do is if we were to implement a solution, is to create a dashboard, something similar to what you have seen for COVID. I know the finance department is currently going through a transition into a more modern software that will be able to kind of help us with this. I know the current system is very antiquated. Getting reports is hard. And even when you get the reports, you need to have a PhD or I don't know what degree, because I myself don't understand them. I have to go to Jerry and then run around and try to figure out what they say. So we want to kind of get over that and work with the new system and set up something that you can look up online and always know what the status of the district is, the status of the funds, right? And what you're getting for your money. So I think that's very important, and it has to be a required part of this solution, whatever it may be. Some of the things that you mentioned in the survey that I saw as possible new things to include included lighting, sidewalks, street resurfacing and maintenance, street sweeping, maintenance of nearby parks, trash, and this is more like litter, and the repair of mailboxes. And these are things that if you were to pursue a Melrose can do all of that, indeed. It's no problem. So getting down to the last slide here, I believe. We're looking for this citizen committee. We're looking for citizen involvement. We're doing that because without it, really, there's no point of meeting. I mean, let's just be honest here. If the city is going to form a district or fund this through an assessment district or Melrose, it's going to go to a vote, right? And if there's a vote, it's going to require a lot more people be informed. A lot more people be on board with that solution and an increase of that rate. Your rate of $80-something a year for Standard Pacific, the rate of $0 for Strawberry Fields is not going to sustain anything for much longer. Things are going to get worse. I want to reinforce here, this was never, okay, because I think there's a little bit of I hear a lot of the stories over and over again. I see some of that in the chat room here. This was never the responsibility of the city. For Strawberry Fields and for Standard Pacific, your trees in the inside and the outside, your landscaping, all of that was always your responsibility. That was never the responsibility of the general fund. It was established that way by the developer, and that's why they had an assessment district for that. But without an inflator since the late 80s. Well, I really don't know how you will maintain that. That actually is not possible. And the city cannot increase your assessment without going to a whole new vote, reforming the district and doing all this kind of stuff that it's going to cost you money. And frankly, until the whole community understands that's the way that it was set up, there's not going to be a support for a higher rate, right, for any additional funding. But that is why we need this committee. So this committee can do work like replanting, trash pickup. Some communities may want to do that. Other communities, we heard absolutely not. I get it. Okay, that's fine. There may be some of you in the community here that are landscapers or have any sort of expertise, or companies that can assist, any experts in the field. There may be people with nonprofit organization connections in another community. We actually have someone who knows somebody that they want to actually make the community a showcase of drought-resistant plants, right? So this nonprofit will come in, do a lot of the work, and then they will just have to maintain it. Well, that's fantastic. They have that. I don't know if you have that here. I just don't know your residents, if anybody has that connection. I know some of your residents have been outside working and trying to clean up the area already. So that if that was a nonprofit and it was established, absolutely, that could be part of the solution. And most importantly, the number one outcome, what we need tonight and what we need before we can move forward and anything happens, is to have you volunteer, right, to be part of this committee. So to do that, the email is here on the screen. Again, for you on the phone, email Danielle at dwood@civicmic.com. That's CIVICMIC. Next steps for us is to coordinate the formation of this citizens committee, right? So Danielle's going to handle that. And it all depends on the emails. If you don't email, if nobody volunteers, then there's no committee. There's no need for any more meetings, right? But if the committee forms, we will support this committee with information, more meetings, whatever is needed for you as a committee to be able to meet with each other, work together, and figure out if there's consensus for any effort here, right? And then we will go back and forth between the committee and the city to get you budgets, rates, give you estimates, and kind of help you out to make that decision, right? We will run through that over and over again until we get to the spot where, okay, you come back and you say, we met it with everybody, we went door to door, and there appears to be a 2/3 support if that's what you're pursuing. So it depends on what you're pursuing, how much of a support we need, but that's just an example. And so that's sort of the process here. The number one item is to get volunteers for this committee. And I think that's my portion.
Yes, and Pablo, just to be clear, Alicia made a comment here that I may have unfairly characterized Doug, and that is not what I said. I said that Doug may not want to be part of this program. I do recognize that Doug has done a lot for the city. I've had extensive conversation with him about that, and actually asked for him to be at this meeting because I think it's important. So I don't think that by any stretch of the means. I think that what he's doing is really great, but he may not want to participate in the program that we're talking about tonight and do something on his own, which in that case, I encourage you all to get together and meet and do that. I think he needs help. I did not mean to insult you. I think you've done amazing things for the city. And we talked about, you getting a group together, Doug, on your own, someone getting out there to help you. So that's what we're looking for here tonight, is volunteers that want to be part of the citizens committee, that want to make decisions on how to move forward. And the decision may be that you don't want to work with the city on anything, that, you've decided that you don't like how the city's managed things and you want it to stay status quo. The city has gone through this effort to determine that, because some of you have come forward and said, what can we do? What can the city do for us? So we're having these meetings to decide what your community really wants before any more money. We don't want to go out to form a CFD and spend thousands and thousands of dollars to find out that it's not supported by the community. So this is the city's effort to really hear your voice and hear everyone's perspective. And yeah, some people in the community have been doing great things like Doug, but we want to hear from everyone and find out what you want the city to do for you, or if you don't want them to do anything.
So let me interject real quick. And again, I'm going to say this right now, and I really don't want to offend anybody, so please don't be offended by this. But this small group here of 17 people, which includes 4 of us that are not living there in Oxnard, and it actually includes some people that don't even live in your neighborhood, right? They're not in Strawberry Fields or Standard Pacific. So the 17 is down to 13. There's probably 10, 12 people here that actually live in Strawberry Fields and Standard Pacific. It is absolutely 600 postcards that you sent. Yeah.
Right.
Imagine that. That's 10 people. I'm sorry, but this group here is not representative of the community. And in fact, there's nothing that we can decide or discuss here that will represent the community. That's the number one issue that we have. Is like, if the other 590 homes are not represented, it's going to be really hard to agree on anything, because people are going to have different opinions left and right. And really, we don't actually know. All we're hearing from are the people that are here, right? So if you're very vocal here about you like oranges, right? We may think, oh, wow, they like oranges. Well, not really. The community actually likes apples, but because the 10 people that are here said oranges, that's all we got. So this is why we need you to organize and find out if you like oranges or apples. That's really going to be down to you. Second thing I want to say is that I've been working with the city for a long, long time, many years. I mean, many, many years. I have met with you. I've met with David and many other residents of the city. I hosted meetings in person. And I have heard for 7, 10 years now, the same thing. The city gets all this money. The city gets all that money. And you know what? If that's what you believe, then at some point, you're going to have to reconcile that with the fact that it's not getting any better, right? If you really, really want to take this up the chain of command and go and ask and say, hey, city has to do this. They have to pay for everything. Go ahead, because it has not been working. So I feel really sad every time I go to Oxnard and I see the communities continue to deteriorate. The trees get worse. And all I hear is people complaining about the taxes and we pay too much already. And well, if it's not changing, my suggestion is do something about it, right? And we're here to help. But if you don't want to do something about it and you want to continue to argue that point, then go ahead. It's okay. Whenever you're ready, we'll be here for you. That's been working with the city all these years, and I'm ready to help. Okay, so that's just wanted to interject on that because I know there's a lot of comments here about that. You want to do the questions?
Pablo, we do. Yes. So I think there may only be one question in here actually, but Pam is asking if the committee needs to be comprised of only residents from Standard Pacific. And I would say no, we can have other members on the committee that can help, but the decisions will primarily be made for this community and surrounding communities. So I guess it would depend on their role and what they would want, how they would be participating in the committee. But no, we can definitely have other members of the committee if you're looking to, they're looking to help with volunteering. If they're looking to, help with some of the things we've talked about, like one of the other communities that we have that's moving along very fast, actually. We say that this process is going to take a long time, but this other community is moving very fast. They're getting plants donated to their community, or they've talked with individuals who are willing to donate native plants to their community. They're moving quickly. So those type of people being involved in the committee, that's great. I don't know if they need to be on the standing committee, but sure, Pam, anyone that's interested, please send them our way and we can kind of sort through that as we get going. Was there anyone on you were part of Strawberry Fields and part of the decision to dissolve the LMD. I did this as a resident and as a member. Okay. Were there any questions that anyone had on here? I'm sorry, let's see. I see a question mark. Westport, Mandalay Bay already have a CFD, which engineers report shows 3,700 assessment on their property taxes. What is the estimate for Standard Pacific with the CFD? We have no idea at this point. So it really depends on what would be included, what services would be included in order to come up with a special tax amount on an annual basis.
Yeah, currently, and I have the budget on the screen for Standard Pacific for 2021. And this ties into the slide that I had earlier, okay? So the first thing you want to do is this item called special projects, you want to take that out, okay? So that's out of the equation here. But everything else in here that you see, the contractor maintenance, the water, all these costs, I think it comes up to about $15,000 currently. You're getting some offset of surplus funds that you had that are being used for $6,000 this year. But again, that balance is going down every year. This down here shows your $87 that you pay, and it's maxed at 87. There's only 255 homes there. Again, nothing for Strawberry Fields. This is all Standard Pacific. So this is your current budget. It's hard to tell if you were to capture this stuff on the outside, what it will cost until we run that, right? So this is only for the interior. This is only for what you see on this map, which is the little bit of landscaping on Beryl Avenue, Talos Street, Nebula Street. This is just when you enter, right? At the off Patterson and off Gonzalez. And then it looks like you have these circles on Volcano, Topaz, ends of Ruby Drive and Norite, with a tree on each one of them. So that's currently what is being maintained. Absolutely nothing on Patterson, nothing on Gonzalez. And if you go down to Strawberry Fields area, the city's not, there's no assessment district. So the general fund currently on a once a year schedule. So if you see somebody from the city on Doris Avenue, you're not gonna see them for another year. Same on Patterson. Yes, I think Doug has been working out there on Doris Avenue quite a bit. And again, if Doug is able to mobilize you all into some sort of a civic effort, that's fantastic. I'm for that. I think that government is a very inefficient way of doing things, right? And I think everybody knows that. So in any way that you can do this more efficient, I'm all for it. But again, we're here in a meeting with 10 people out of 600 homes. I don't really know that that's what your community feels like. I know the people here are participating, right? But really, does that really represent what you as a whole want to do? Again, it goes back to, I feel strongly that the 10 of you should be in the committee and go door to door and find out how people actually feel, if they're willing to do something now or wait for Measure E or wait for the city to pay this from some funding of other sort, right? So, not sure if you have any more questions. You want to go to the phone, see if there's somebody on the phone with a question? Because I don't see anything in here. A lot of comments.
Looks like Anthony may have a question.
Okay.
Oh, David, go ahead. You can unmute.
Go ahead, David. Unmute. You're muted, David. Oh, you know what? Oh, I mean, I asked him too.
I did.
You did? Okay.
I asked him to.
Can you hear us? Go ahead and unmute yourself, Dave. There you are. Yeah.
Right. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Question is the apathy that we're obviously seeing. I'm sure you've experienced this in other communities. Do you have some ways of trying to overcome this besides spirited 10 volunteers going out knocking door to door? So that's one question. All right. The second question is more of arithmetic or arithmetic type of thing. If for the last 30 years we had an inflator, and I don't know what you've got experience of what the inflators should be, what would be our assessment fee at current prices versus what we now pay of $88 a year, which is ridiculous?
I do not know. I have not run that number. So if you had an inflator, it's hard to tell. I know it goes all the way down to 89, right? So I will tell you this. there's a difference between the inflator for that. So let's say it did have an inflator, right? And normally an inflator for an assessment or a mellow, either you put a flat inflator of 2%, 3% is too high. People don't support 3%. That seems to be where a mellow dies, right? So you will go with 2%. On an assessment district, you do CPIU, which is just your standard cost of living inflator that you get out of labor statistics. There's no relation between that and water increases, right? So yes, your assessment will have been higher. Let's say it was $200 a year. Heck, make it 250, which I don't think it would have been that high.
160.
160? Okay, so it doubled, right? It probably would have still not kept up because water rates have not followed any of that. I'll give you another example. A lot of cities use Mello-Roos to pay for police, right? Or to fund police. And I set those up. We do a citywide Mello-Roos to pay for police or fire. It lasts about 3 years because the moment they go into labor negotiations, they don't follow inflators. They don't go and come out like, oh, well, you said that thing for 2%. It doesn't follow any of that. It's the same scenario. So the moment that any of these things, we can only do the inflator and we have to stick with that. We cannot change it by law, right? We have to unless we go out to a vote. It really, truth is that yes, maybe you have paid 180 now, 160, but you may have still be in trouble, right?
Still be in trouble. I'm just thinking if I'm going to my neighbor and knocking on their door, they say, okay, how much? It's going to quickly boil down to that. All right, what more do you expect us to pay?
Right, and then in regards to getting your residents to participate, right? Exactly. In my experience, you as residents have the best chance, right? I have gone door to door before. I have met with many people before, but they still see us as an outsider, right? We're representing the city, right? And there, frankly, this is not only to Oxnard. Today, there's a big distrust for the government, and there may be reasons for that. That's not the place to argue that here, but it is what it is. And so, residents banding together, going door to door is your best chance. We have sent out flyers before. We have sent out postcards. Heck, I even offer free Amazon cards, right? Gift cards. And it just people take the mail and they throw it away, right? They don't read it. And so we have been able to get good participation at many of our meetings in other communities, right? Up to 20, 25% participation. That's great.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what we want to get to. Here, I'm a little disappointed that we didn't get that high at all. And I don't mean in Oxnard 20, 25%. I mean in other projects that we had where we had multiple meetings and we got that high. So even if we do a ballot, I'll give you another example. Many of the assessment districts, we send out ballots, right? If we get 33% back, that's a win. People just don't return ballots. They don't read flyers. I don't know. They do get mad when they find out it's an assessment, right? And the taxes went up. And then they always say, well, you never heard of this. I'm like, well, geez, I mean, what else can we do?
Well, I guess if we don't try,
right.
We're not going to make any progress. So,
right.
You'll get my email or.
Thank you.
And I'll certainly volunteer to participate, but it's going to take a whole lot of effort by a whole lot of people.
Right. Danielle, you have any more questions?
Any other questions? I believe Anthony may have one. They were working on. Oh, you were unmuted, but you're muted.
Okay,
there you go.
I'm unmuted now.
There you go.
And I believe I talked with you a couple of times. And over here to, what's his name?
Dave.
Pablo.
Yes.
The neighborhood is the present, the representation in this neighborhood is because the city never followed up originally when we moved in this district.
Yeah, right.
And they're a little bit upset. David, you know who I am. So we've gone over and over this thing here, but my question is going to be to you. The 782. Why is Lionsgate and Strawberry Fields included in our Standard Pacific when originally this 782 was strictly
They're not.
for our area?
They're not. Okay.
So why do you have
This-
them in
Right
that?
here? Okay.
Yeah.
This is our new effort, this thing right now, the thing called ReNew Oxnard Program. The meeting that we're having with you, we send the postcards to Standard Pacific up here, on the left side.
That's
And then
correct.
and the south end Strawberry here on the right side, we send them postcards to join us. Because if you're going to do Patterson, right, and you're going to do Doris, which ideally this is what we're hoping to create a block, right, a big, the interior is a problem of itself, right? But I think the interior is fixable, right? The interior improvements, the stuff inside is much easier to work out. But if you want something where you make the corner here in Gonzalez and see this whole neighborhood very pretty on the outside, even though the rest of the city is not going to look pretty, this was a way to start the process to talk to you. It doesn't mean this is, like I said at the beginning, this line, we can draw it anywhere you want. You go and get me 2/3 of any section of this stuff in green, anywhere, and I'll draw the line right there. Meaning if you go out with David and you say from Gonzalez to Moraine Way, actually right here, Nebula, that's, we got 2/3. Then we'll form a district that big. There you go. Fantastic.
Yeah.
I think your
Well-
biggest problem is finding that support, right? So it doesn't matter where we draw the line. That's going to be the issue.
Well, again, like I said, I mean, Danielle, brought up that we shouldn't bring up the past. Well, how do you cure the future if you don't get to the past and make sure that it doesn't continue the way that it has been? Again, that's why this neighborhood is not responding. And another thing too, when we go into our cul-de-sacs, that the 87, 82 was supposed to be taking care of our trees, guess what? They never took care of them. The city never stepped up to the plate to take care of these trees, never trimmed them. We had to wait almost years. And finally, I would, call in and make sure that they trimmed these trees. And some we even trimmed in my street with my tree trimmers, period. Because you know what? This is something that failure has been in the past, but now in the future, I mean, hey, I don't know where this is going to take us until we find out exactly how many people are really going to approve or even volunteer for any of this.
So in regards to the
can I-
past,
I want to answer that one, Pablo. I think what is really important about this program is, in regards to the past, is why we talked about transparency and having a group of citizens together. Because if we're making changes from this point forward, we have to have a group that works directly with Jerry on the annual budget, where the funds are being spent, what services are being completed, and that we stay on top of that, and that group stays involved with the city, because we don't want to repeat the past. And I understand that you all have, I think there's a lot of good information to learn from the past. I just think that most of the people on this call understands what has happened in the past. So
Okay, mailboxes, why are you including them on the list when that belongs to the Postal Service?
okay, so
Mailboxes
they're
have
not,
always-
again, Anthony, they're not on the list. Let me show you
Okay.
that slide. Okay.
All right, because they were on there, and
Oh, yeah.
I'm looking at the questionnaire
you,
that I
bro.
received.
Oh, I hear you. Here, let me get to you there. Okay. Can you see this on the screen now?
Yeah.
Okay. Mailboxes.
Mailboxes,
You see what it says right here?
new.
All of this right here, and this, you're going to get these slides because they're going to post them, right? So you'll have a better chance to spend time on them. This is new. This is my suggestion to you as a list of things that you may want to consider. All pending and subject to running the numbers. And then we come back and it's like, oh, well, that's $150,000. Then I guess what? You're not getting something from this list. I'm sure of that. So this is just a list from the survey, right? I heard
Okay.
people complaining about mailboxes. And by the way, yes, they are the Postal Service. The Postal Service doesn't maintain them. So we have mailboxes through the city where they're actually Postal Service property, but the maintenance is a whole different story. And if you got to repair them, it's a whole different ballgame. So now,
Well, in the years past, they did repair these mailboxes.
Years
Yeah.
past.
and we hear different stories. We have communities where they did say no, and sometimes they won't even let us touch it, right? But then again, that's to be worked out. And you don't have to
Sure.
have mailboxes in there. I did want to mention something about the past. that I am well aware, Anthony, of the situation you have. I have been at many, many meetings. I've heard it all. And I am aware of the things you're describing where the city was not doing a really good job, right? When I got there in 2014 and did the audit, 14 through 16, I worked on this audit. That's how this group where Jerry's at got formed. Before Sandra, really, and then Jerry, before this group, the assessment districts were handled by 14 different people throughout the city in different departments. None of them talked to each other. So you had, one person doing a budget without actually looking at any numbers, and it just was really, really bad. So we have been working with the city, and the city has improved that process a lot, consolidated everything to a group. But in a lot of cases, the city doesn't have a lot of funding, right? Because yes, I know you want your trees trimmed. There's places where, yes, but that assessment district doesn't have any money. So how do you get that done, right? So I am fully aware of the past, but unfortunately, what I'll say to you and everybody is I also have heard these complaints, and it's sort of a circle, right? You just keep going back at it. You can talk bad about the city all you want, and you may be right about it. You may have a point. In the meantime, your trees are dying, your sidewalks are getting uplifted, your roads are falling apart, the value of your home is going down, your community is going downhill from the first day I saw it, which is years ago, right? So I know this for a fact. And my suggestion to you is get together, decide if you really want to continue that pattern, right? Insanity, right? Is doing the same thing, expecting different results, or you want to take the bull by the horns and organize and do something at least temporarily for the next 7 years, clean it up, and then fight that battle with the city, right? That's my recommendation. You may not want to do any of it, and then you just wait. I mean, continue what you're doing. Sadly.
Pablo.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been here for 80 years, so I'm very familiar with the operations.
Look good for 80. You're 80 years old?
That's where my life is on the outskirt. I'm going out pretty soon, so.
You look excellent, actually. You look great.
Well, I'll tell you what, I wish the god dang city would beautify so I can look back at my youth and find out if we're going to be able to have a beautiful city again.
I understand.
But the program, hey, it's great. Let's see what our neighbors decide to do, if they want to join or not.
Right.
Thank you so much.
You bet. We're here to help, guys. If you come back and you say we want this or that or whatever you like, we'll structure it with the city. We're here. We have offer ideas already about putting a sunset on it, so it's not something you're stuck forever. We can add an inflator. We can keep the inflator at 2%. We can have different components in and out of it. I just feel like what you have right now and your current plan is not sustainable. That's my main concern. That is really not going to get any better. I really don't think so.
Pablo, we have a question here about if we do not change going forward, then the exterior street maintenance is not funded. They're asking if that's
correct. Yeah, currently the street, so anything about street resurfacing, that's general fund money that there's no district that is paying for that right now. So you don't have it, they don't have it, nobody has it.
He knows what he's talking about.
That's going to get worse too. But that's a whole different ball game, right? That's a whole thing. That would be a new improvement, something you don't have right now in the list.
What happens to this?
Got a question.
Sure.
I'm sorry.
Am I still on?
Yeah.
Okay, what happens to the 82 or
87.
the 87, 82?
So it depends on how you want to do this, right? But ideally, you form something new, right? With a nice flexible list of things that we draw the boundary again, whatever you want it, right? We determine all that, set up the transparency, set everything you want in there. You're happy, right. We're happy, and we make this thing go away. I run a resolution that we did. We dissolved Strawberry Fields. We'll dissolve this thing and let it go. Okay. Because ideally, this thing is dead anyway. It's flat. It's not going to go anywhere. Why carry this? To me, I feel like, hey, get yourself in a new one single item on your tax bill, and then leave this behind, and we'll replace it.
Can we see this? If we wanted to see this, what you have on the screen right now, would that be on your video?
It will be on the video, but even yet, I'll show you live right now. So this is just a regular browser. You can, Google. You go into CivicMic.com. You see that?
Yes.
And then you drop Communities, Oxnard, right? And once you get there, there's a lot of options here, but that budget is coming from ReNew Oxnard News because I already put them under this program so that when you go there, you can see you're in here, you're number 12, and actually need to change this to Strawberry Fields.
Okay.
And once you go in there, tonight's video, tonight's everything is going to be here, but that budget, along with a whole bunch more, is already here. You can see it right in here.
Great.
I posted it last year in July. And then you just, so I advise you, I mean, there's a lot of information, maybe too much. Don't sit down on one sitting because it's just too much excitement for you. Take your time. a lot of it is very dry. I do this for a living, and I can only read so much of this stuff before I just fall asleep. So take your time. Yeah.
I'm done.
So Alicia is asking, and hi, Alicia, we've had you in maybe all of our community meetings. I don't know, a number of them. So I'm not sure what community you live in, but she's asking a question about the budgets and how you can see them in the reports there that you showed, but how they can see the actual expenditures that came from those budgets. So
So they can do a public records request and have the detailed budget from our current financial software, HTE, run, and we can provide that to them at any time.
Right.
Okay, thank you, Jerry. Are there any other questions? I know Doug is asking some questions about Measure O and Measure E, and we did talk at the beginning, Doug, I don't know if you were on the call about some of the Measure E funds, and that's why and how they will be used, and landscaping being a priority on some of those from what the community has told the city. But I think that's why Pablo spoke about the option of having something in place that's maybe a CFD that would take place for 5 years or a 7-year sunset. So then by that point, the community could reevaluate if the funds were available and they needed to continue, or at that point, if the CFD could.
Frankly, your option is to continue this battle. It's the best way to describe it, right? That you have, and things are not getting any better. And yes, you have a lot of blame to place, and rightly so, and so on. But or you could carry the load for a little bit, and then continue to have the battle, and things will get better for you, right? Because you'll be able to fund the improvements, and then you'll be able to follow through with Jerry and her group, and make sure that it's getting done.
And you're right, Doug. Doug's saying that CFD is transferring the responsibility to taxpayers when we already have been given money to Measure E. You're correct, but some of the members of your community have asked how this can happen sooner. That
there's a point there that is not correct. The point is that, again, to repeat this, I'll go back here. The maintenance, the stuff we're talking about tonight, right? The landscaping was never to be funded by anything other than your assessments. The work on Patterson right here, right? And Gonzalez above Standard Pacific, and then Doris for Survey Fields, was always done with your assessments, with your $87 in Standard Pacific. The Patterson work, the medians, the Parkways, that stopped being done with your money in about 16, 17, because the assessment districts could no longer support that, right? But from the very beginning, from the moment these homes were built, the transfer of responsibility was always to you. You, as the homeowners, were always responsible to fund all the tree trimming, all the median work, all the landscaping, inside and outside. So that means along Patterson, along Gonzalez. And because it has been done by the general fund poorly for the last few years at a horrible level, it doesn't mean that it's being transferred. You always had it. In fact, really, we could argue, given that their city's doing so bad, that you never really transfer this responsibility to the city either, because obviously they're not doing a good job at it, right? So I just want to make sure that you all understand that the city was never responsible to fund any of this work. Now the streets is a different thing, right? So we're only talking about the items for Standard Pacific. Let me see if I can get that on the screen for you. This table here, trees, shrubs, and ground cover. This here for Standard Pacific used to be in the inside and the outside. It currently is only the inside, but from the very beginning, the $88 was supposed to do the exterior, that's the medians, and the inside trees, shrubs, and ground cover. I hope everybody understands that, because that's very important, you know, to comprehend, so that you're not thinking that, hey, we're thinking something that the city is supposed to be doing. The city was never supposed to be doing this, ever. I'm sorry, but that's just the way this was set up when you were at home. That's the cards that you were dealt.
There's a question, can we use the $82 and cut the city out and hire our own? Pablo, do you want to answer that, or?
Yeah. So for other communities, in fact, I met with a community yesterday in Oxnard, and they have an HOA, right? The HOA already is doing work, you know, that they do normally for their part. And they're very, very interested in cutting the city out of the deal, right? Just basically they feel that they can do a better job at it, more efficient and so on. So I told them, yes, absolutely. We can work with the city on drafting an agreement. It's called a maintenance agreement, because however you do this privately, you're going to need to have an organization or some sort of entity, because you're going to need insurance. You're going to need to be able to hold the city harmless and indemnify the city from any lawsuits or any problems, because you're going to have people working on public property. You're not taking over the medium like you own it, right? You're not going to make that into private property. You're not going to take over that property. You're simply working on public property. And for that, you're going to need insurance. You're going to need to hire qualified licensed landscapers, blah, blah, blah. You're going to have to sign documents. You're going to have to incur some risk and liability as well. So absolutely it can be done. They're willing to do that. Their community, the meeting, apparently this is where all the attorneys in the city of Oxnard go to, because they have way too many attorneys in one place. So I was like, oh, well, you can work easily with the city on this. And they're going to do that.
So in an effort to, you know, hear everyone's comments, I'm going to ask for questions again, but Doug, I am reading your comments that you don't want the city to do anything with this program. You don't need MBS involved. If you would like, you can put your email on the chat here, or a way for individuals to contact you, so you can all meet and, you know, leave us out of it. That's fine.
Absolutely.
I have received emails from individuals who have been on this call, and one individual who dropped off of the call, that they are interested in being in the Citizens Committee already tonight. So if you would like to do that, Doug, please feel free to use the chat to do that. And then we can either leave it when we post it to the webpage or remove it for you, however you, whatever you'd like, but please feel free to do that. Actually, the companies carry the liability insurance. Yes, but they need to make sure that they meet, well, the city has to make sure that they meet the standards of what the city is required to carry.
Somebody has to manage the damn thing. It's like so many other projects where somebody has to be in the middle. Somebody has to be in charge.
Yeah, thank you. Is there anyone else that has any questions on the phone? I'm not trying to silence you, Doug, at all. I think it's perfectly fine for you. If you would like to meet, I really am. I'm saying, please put your information here, or let others know how to get in contact with you. We just want to see the communities look nicer, and the city wants to make sure that they're not wasting your time or money on any efforts that you're not interested in. So we understand that you don't want to be part of this program tonight. You do want to be part of some solution, but not this program. And I'm giving you the opportunity to let people know how to contact you if you're interested in that.
Well, if there are not any more questions.
There you go. Perfect.
Again, I will reiterate for you what I stated earlier, and I'm going to put Neil's email on the screen here. Sorry, that's very fast there, right here. We are going to be on standby. Okay, so I want to make this clear for Anthony and David, because I know you guys and I've worked with you before, particularly. We're not going to take any further action for this community right now until we hear from you, right? So Danielle's going to receive some emails. She's going to put together, hopefully there's enough interest to create a committee. And what we're going to do is work with that small group of residents to provide you with information. We can create content for you, flyers, whatever you need, we can create that, right? And then we're going to be pending on you to go door to door and come back and tell us, yeah, there is support for this program, for something of this nature. We're very flexible. It doesn't have to be a Melrose. You could do, if you wanted to do an HOA or you wanted to do some other effort, whatever it is, come back with it and we can figure out a way to make it work. But other than that, we're not planning to spend any more of your money to have meetings until you come back with real support, right? Participation and some answers for us. So that's really the next steps for us at this point. Okay. All right. I don't think there's any more. You have anything else, Danielle?
No, I don't.
Very good. Well, thank you everybody for being here. I do appreciate you being here. I know, that's not a lot of people, but I do appreciate that you took the time to do this, and I understand what the situation is. So hopefully we'll talk again and we'll make some progress on this effort. And thank you again. Okay. You have a fantastic night.
Thank you.